speak into the microphone, please?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for reminding me to speak into the microphone. So, let's see. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Burton, would you like to open?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the born and unborn, of course, in honor of my friend who's not here. We appreciate it. She started a tradition.
All right. Board, you have an agenda before you, so it's recommended that the board adopt the agenda. Motion by Joe. Second by Juliana. Please vote. It passes 4-0. We have report out of closed session. I do have something to report. It was moved by Joe and seconded by Anthony to appoint the following administrative appointments. Ann Fishburne to assistant principal, Elisa Allen to assistant principal, Nicole Dykeman to assistant principal, Sarah Wright to principal, and Stacy Moyer to director. That is a 4-0 vote. Yes, very exciting. Thank you. Welcome aboard to all of those. And we're into those new positions. All right, so in student discipline, A, it's recommended the governing board approve the recommendations for the readmission hearing for the matter of student 2022-23 RH8. Is there a motion? Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Please vote. All right, now on to item B. It's recommended that the governing board approve the recommendations on the readmission hearing panel in the matter of student 2022-2023 RH9. Is there a motion? Motion Juliana.
Second.
Second Joe. Please vote. It passes 4-0. Item C, in the matter of readmission hearing panel in the matter of student 2022-23 RH10. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Please vote. The item passes 4-0. Now moving on to the consent agenda. I'm not sure how to go about this because I do have a card for the consent agenda. So do I need to have them come first?
Yes.
Okay, so, sorry, I'm learning as I go. Tom Verallo. On item 8D, I believe. Hold on just a moment, or wait for the timing to come up, please. Thank you.
I don't see a timer, but I'll start, I guess.
There it is.
Okay.
And speak into the mic.
My name is Tom Burrell, I see it now. I was 17-year program manager for the United States Navy, approval authority on a $68 million a year annual budget. I know how hard it is for you all to review and approve things like travel, so I looked at one travel item that I have questions and concerns about, and I've asked to have it removed and voted on separately, because it wouldn't pass the initial check that I would make when I would get Department of Defense travel requests. So the joint travel regulations for specified costs for going to every state and city in the United States. Going to Washington, D.C. is $250 a day per person. There's 4 people going at $17,000. That's over $4,000 per person. But they can, if I was sending them as a DoD manager, they could only spend $1,000 on hotel and meals and incidentals. That leaves $3,200 per person for a rental car, airfare, and for the conference fee. What I've seen on this is it wouldn't even be enough for me to get an initial email request of, hey Tom, would you entertain this? And so I believe that it needs to have separate look. I did look at it. The T3 Innovation Education, the Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit organization. It's only a one-day conference, so there's a 4-day travel for a one-day conference. And so that also has me scratching my head, particularly with the high cost. Going across the country, even for DoD, which is not known for being frugal, 4 people, even from a high staff, will be a lot of people to go across the coast. This T3 conference is a mid-year conference with no agenda, no speakers identified, nothing in particular to commend it for 4 high-level people from the organization to go and spend that much money. Frankly, I don't think you have enough information to make a decision. I wouldn't. There is a one-day, half-day conference that precedes it called the Experience You Project from the Chamber of Commerce, sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. The idea is for learning and employment records, and their intent is to find a way to digitize learning and employment from people who are already in the workforce, post-secondary students, incumbent workforce personnel. In short, nothing to do with K-8 education. So that conference has nothing to do with anything that we would want to send educators to. I have the joint travel regulation costs here if you'd like to see them. And thank you.
Thank you. If I can maybe make a request, maybe you would meet with our superintendent and talk about some of your concerns too. Thank you.
And at this time, I'd like to request that 8D be pulled and voted on separately from the consent.
Okay. All right, with 8D being pulled, is there a motion?
Do you have a board meeting between now and the 17th of July?
Can make one.
Is there a motion for the consent agenda? A minus D?
Motion.
Motion by Anthony.
For me, I'm personally on D. How feasible would it be to get more information on T3 Innovation Work Network, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, what the rationale amount of payment, I guess you would say, would come from business partnership, and we already, is there a possibility we can get a breakdown of that?
David?
Based on the information that Tom shared with us?
Yeah, we're planning on a 3-day engagement, partially with Digital Promise. The K-12 aspect of the Learner Employment Record is what we're working on with the Chance Zuckerberg Initiative grant, with the Walton Family Foundation grant, which we'll talk about at the World Work Summit, and the upcoming grant with the Spencer Foundation. Taking the world of work and building a vocational identity that will help transition so we can see visibly, are our students finding gainful employment once they leave us? That's the idea of a learner employment record. And we've been meeting with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation for the last few years on this collaboration.
date 17th through the 20th.
Sorry?
What's the rationale between the start date and the end date? So if we're looking at the T3 Innovation Network Conference,
17th travel
the
day,
risk of not
18th,
coming.
19th, 20th, or meeting day, we're trying on the 20th.
are we presenting?
No,
Are we, is there a, like a opportunity for us to set a resource or?
it's learning and collaboration.
The rationale listed as business partnership, but what's the business partnership aspect?
This is the answer.
Collaboration on a comprehensive learner employment record that will reach down to K-12. Currently, most of it is focused on workforce. We're trying to build a rationale that starts in kindergarten, kind of like the California Cradle to Career initiative, except the U.S. Chamber Foundation has actually been doing it.
Would it benefit us to move to vote for that perhaps after presentation on the World of Work Summit date?
No, my recommendation would be to second the consent agenda minus D, and then vote on that, and then either vote on or disapprove travel item D. And either way, that would be fine.
Thank you, David. So we have a motion by Anthony on consent agenda minus D. Is there a second?
Second?
Second by Joe, and please vote.
I have a question here, Kevin. So the vote now gonna be to vote for everything but not item
D.
D?
Yes, we're gonna talk about that more in just a minute. Question? And it passes 4-0. And back to item D.
So, I don't wanna take Joe's idea here because I'm using it. I would like to modify the approved travel and conference to remove the T3 Innovation Network trip to Washington DC, vote on the rest. I'm not sure if we can do this, but add an agenda item to, in this meeting to vote on the T3 Innovation Network separately after we hear the World of Work conference update.
Any other discussion?
The reason why I think that the information in regards to the T3 Innovation Network and the World of Work update, I think that it would give us a little more insight into how, not just us, but our community to understand and make sense of why we do what we do and why the decisions and if there is a justification for travel in that sense.
So are you making a motion to,
Sure, I'll motion for the three.
we're voting on the 3 other travels minus the T3 Innovation?
So I'll second that motion.
Okay. And I think this has to be verbal. So that was Joe first, Anthony second, and is all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Second? Any nays? No nays, so it passes 4-0. And so we are moving present or information to the World of Work with us. Is that, or we are going to vote on this now? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go to action item A. Thank you for 9A, and so this is the LCAT plan, and so we're the governing board to adopt the 23-24 Cajon Valley School District's local control accountability plan. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Joe. Second? Second by Juliana. Vote, please. passes 4-0. Item B, it's to adopt the Bostonia Charters local control accountability plan for 23-24. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Anthony. Please vote. Did it pass? Pass 4-0, sorry. I didn't see it come up on the screen. All right, now on to our budget. Miranda. Thank you.
Hello.
Great. Thank you.
Greetings, board. I bring you tonight the 23-24 budget adoption with 22-23 estimated actuals. So every year, we start the year off in June with our adopted budget. We do report the first interim, second interim, and then we come around to estimated actuals and the adopted budget. So by July 1st of every year, the governing board must adopt the budget. We had the public hearing for the budget last board meeting on June 13th. And this budget includes next year's adopted budget and this year's estimated actuals as of the time we prepared the budget. And the budget includes the assumptions based on the governor's May revise for the state budget. So here's a quick summary of the estimated actuals and adopted budget for both unrestricted and restricted funds. The adopted budget includes the COLA of 8.22%, which came from the governor's May revise. Donations and carryover revenues are not yet budgeted in the 23-24 budget. That gets added in after we close the books in September. I do want to point out 22-23 does include the revenues for the arts, music, and instructional materials grant, as well as the learning recovery block grant. However, with the May revise, the governor and the legislature did propose reducing both of those grants. Those grants were allocated in the 22-23 state budget, but the state has to pull back some of those funds in order to fund that 8.22% COLA. The state budget was just approved, and those funds are going to be reduced. It is being reduced a little bit less than was originally proposed in the May revise, though. In the 23-24 year, the revenues do still include the last of the state and federal COVID mitigation funding, including ESSER 3, the ELOG, and in-person instruction grants. And all of those funds have to be spent by September 30, 2024. So a majority of those funds are budgeted in 23-24, and if there will be a little bit into next summer that we can use those. Here are the expenditures for both unrestricted and restricted. The expenditures into 23-24 include second column increases for staff. No salary settlements are included in 23-24 yet, since those openers just started and negotiations will happen throughout the year, so we don't add in the impact of those settlements until they're settled. There are ongoing expenditures from those COVID funds that are being spent in 23-24. PERS rates are increasing again next year. STIRS, however, is remaining the same. That's good. We budgeted health benefit increases at 5%, and the same as carryover revenues haven't been posted yet. Same with the carryover expenditures, they'll get posted after we close the books, and you'll see them at first interim. So when we prepared the proposed budget for next year, it was based on the May revise. That's not the adopted state budget. So parts of the proposal that we based the assumptions on have changed. Any of those changes will come about with the first interim report. The COLA for the subsequent years that are in the NYP are all based on assumptions. Next year's COLA was at 8.22%, which is still historically high for COLA. And then in the 2 out years, it dropped to about 4% and then closer to 3%. And those are all just based on assumptions that come from the Legislative Analyst's Office and School Services of California. You can see the CalPERS rate is still climbing at a very fast rate. Originally, I think it was just last year, they were proposing to actually kind of settle out and drop a little bit for PERS, but they're projected to be at almost at 28% by 25-26. So it's still climbing at a very fast rate. Other assumptions in the multi-year, 23-24 is carrying through those one-time grants. I have the end date, so ESSER 3 in-person instruction and E-log, I had mentioned, we're spending those through September 2024. We also have several other large one-time grants, including educator effectiveness, which we have through 2026, that arts, music, and instructional materials block grant, and learning recovery grant. And those are the 2 grants that are being reduced with this coming year budget. Not included is the LCSS equity multiplier. We don't have many schools that will be eligible for that, but Empower will be eligible to get a little chunk of money. And then the last several years, we've seen large amounts of one-time grants coming to the schools, and this year, there's very minimal one-time grants, and they're even pulling them back because the state revenues are starting to slow, and they just aren't there like they used to be. So our LCSS funding is based on a combination of our average daily attendance and our unduplicated pupil count. So this is a look back and then a little look forward of our enrollment numbers and the attendance rate. So we did have a drop in enrollment in 21-22. That was from a combination of both COVID and the enrollment shifting from the K-8 schools to Bosstonia Global Charter. Since they're funded separately, those enrollment counts go to the charter. We did see, you see that little bump up in 22-23 though, so that was very positive. We got several hundred kids back enrolled, and we're seeing some extra enrollment from the universal PK rollout. But you can see that red 88% line. Before COVID, our attendance rate was about between 95 and 96%. In that 2021 year, it's high because we didn't really have ADA that year, so our ADA number was actually from the year before, so with the drop of enrollment, it was an artificially high ADA rate for that year. But then in 21-22, it dropped down to almost 90%, and we expected it to be coming back up starting this year, but unfortunately we're not seeing that. And attendance rates have stayed about 91%, and so we've shifted our projections. Over the last year, I've had the projections coming up, increasing the ADA rate a little bit every year, but since we're not seeing the return of the students at this point, we're keeping our ADA projections at about that 91% rate. So here is the multi-year projection looking at just the unrestricted funds. Our LCSS revenues, while we are seeing the ADA go down based on a combination of our enrollment staying about the same projected because the universal PK is mitigating any enrollment decline we're seeing since we're not seeing major drops in enrollment right now. But with our lower attendance rate, and we're able to use a look back of an average of the 3 prior years for the ADA funding, we're slowly seeing the decline of ADA from the shift to Bosstonia. So even with the COLAs, we're just seeing the LCSS revenue go up a little bit. The other revenues are staying pretty close to the same. All of the federal and state COVID funds are on the restricted side, so with the unrestricted side, the other revenues stay fairly the same. Contributions are climbing slowly, so contributions are to the special education restricted resource, and then the routine restricted maintenance resource, we're required to transfer 3% of expenditures to that resource every year. And our expenditures are growing slightly. There's no major jump. We are still funding a portion of our certificated salaries out of the COVID funds under the allowable use to maintain staffing and services to students. While those expenses are in 23-24 under COVID, we've shifted that into the learning recovery grant for the out years at a little bit lower rate. We're gonna have to start pulling it back a little bit sooner though into the unrestricted funds than those grants were reduced. Other expenditures are benefits go up primarily because of PERS. PERS is staying the same. And our ending fund balance, we have, so next year's projected at this point to have an increase of fund balance at 18 million. Do keep in mind that doesn't include any sort of salary settlements for this coming year yet. But you do see the fund balance increase dropping every year. So we're not maintaining that high increase of fund balance. And as we have to shift those unrestricted, or those salaries that we're shifting to restricted right now back into unrestricted, we'll see that start to close the gap a little bit. One of the rules we have to follow set by SB 751 is setting a reserve cap on schools. So when certain things are done with the state budget and a certain amount is able to put into the rainy day fund, we have to have a cap on our unrestricted reserve. We're required to have at least 3%, but this law caps us at 10%. So since our fund balance is above 10%, which is actually a good thing, because if it's less than that, then you're going to be looking at deficit spending and having to look at how to make cuts. We can put funds into commitments, and that pulls it out of the unrestricted fund balance. So these are the proposed commitments that the board would do restraints upon the fund balance. So the only way to spend these funds once they're restricted by these commitments is for the board to take action approving another budget where those commitments are pulled out. So I did do a commitment for the proposed amount of cuts for the arts, music, and the AMID grant and the LRE grant. It was proposed to be about almost $12 million in cuts, so I was making a commitment so that we can be sure to cover any expenditures that were planned or that would have happened out of those funds. By committing these funds in unrestricted, we were still able to make expenditures. Every year we have the OPEB liability, so our unfunded OPEB liabilities a little over $50 million right now, and that's all based on an actuarial study that's done every year by an outside contractor. So I was putting $10 million of commitments for the OPEB liability. We have deferred maintenance commitments, and we previously committed those funds, so this is the remainder of that deferred maintenance plan. 5 years of our solar debt service. Our solar debt service is paid out of Fund 21. We do make a transfer of about $1 million every year into that Fund 21, but this would commit funds for safeguarding to be able to make those solar payments for the next 5 years. A commitment for TK facility implementation. We shift money every year. Well, the last year and this year we're shifting some money to one of the other funds to be able to support all of the needs to have all those additional TK kids at the school. We're doing things like additional classrooms and bathrooms and upgrading playgrounds. So with those expenditures, we're committing $6 million. The Legislative Analyst Office did speak to the state truly only being able to fund 5.1% of their 8.2% COLA that they're funding. So I put in the difference of that COLA between what we're going to be getting versus that 5.1 COLA that the state can actually afford of 5.7 million. And then every year we have site and department unspent budget carryovers. So this number would actually be higher when we close the books, but right now it's at about $1.1 million based on the estimated actuals. So all in all, it'd be $61.5 million of commitment. Now, what is required by that state law to be able to meet that 10% mark. So in summary, I'm almost done. What's not in the budget and other budget concerns includes our enrollment decline that's currently mitigated by the universal TK. And then the larger concern is that 91% attendance rate, which is very low. So we'll have to be making some work over the next year or two to get the attendance rate back up and kids coming back to school. Negotiations, as I've mentioned several times, we don't put those into the budget until they are settled. The state budget adoption wasn't done at the time we adopted the budget, and the state's using one-time funds by reducing prior year grants that they've already given us in order to fund the COLA. So they're taking money back so that they can give it back to us in ongoing funds. And the use of our one-time funding still have to be shifted back into that unrestricted general fund. So I know I talk about this every time, but I really don't want anybody to forget that we have that, a couple $1 million shifting over that. Yes, look at bringing back. Oh, I forgot Boston. So, real quick look at Boston. So here are their revenues. Their revenues are projected coming in just a little bit less next year, but again, we don't do any donations or any of the local revenues until we actually have the grants in place or the donations deposited. Expenditures, they do have an increase of expenditures because as they get another grade level, we're adding staff, we're adding supplies and services and operating. And a chunk of those services and operating do come back to the district in the way of the chargeback. So the services that the district provides, we charge the charter for. Their fund balance is growing, so they are looking financially sound, and they meet their required reserves. So I will see you all back again with the unaudited actuals in September when we close the book.
All right, any questions?
On the 10% reserve cap set by the SB 751, I have an inkling. Is there a possibility? I know 10% is a lot, but knowing Cajon Valley and who you are, I can always see Scott say, well, let's do a little more. Is that possible?
So we are not able to change that reserve cap. All we can do is commit the funds on what we plan to spend it on. So we cannot do anything as a board about that cap. And 10% really is not a very good reserve number to have. If you were only at 10%, you'd probably be facing cash flow problems and, again, deficit spending in those out years.
So we're doing better than 3% normally required.
Yes, if you were at 3%, you'd probably be looking at negative budgets all the time.
But thank you for putting these commitments down. I think those are great options for us.
I have a question.
Yes.
Might be for staff. How do we increase commitments for deferred maintenance, for example? What's the process?
Right now, our deferred maintenance is paid through our LCAP, and we have an action item in our LCAP that you just approved for that every year. And this year, because we had some extra one-time money, the LCAP committee approved putting more money towards roofing, and that's $1 million additional that normally isn't there. So it's really
As well as the crest water.
What's that?
The crest water diversion as well.
What's that?
So it's really, that's the time, if there's money in the LCAP that can always be increased. We used to get deferred maintenance money specifically for that purpose from the state, but years ago when they restructured all of our restricted programs, that money got rolled into the LCFF and the LCAP process. So districts on their own have to now make that a priority and fund that. So I think it's about $2 million.
We do $2 million normally, so this coming year we're doing $3.1 million, and last year it was at $4 million. Well, 22, 23, $4 million, 23, 24, 3.1. On top of we're also required to do 3% of our expenditures into the routine restricted maintenance account. This is just a commitment to set aside extra funds, just in case, because normally the routine restricted maintenance comes out of the restricted side. But this holds extra funds out of unrestricted.
All right, with those questions and answers, is there a motion to accept the bid budget?
Motion?
Motion by Joe,
Second.
second by Anthony. Please vote. Thank you so much, Miranda. All right, moving on to a long one, our consultant agreements. Is there a motion? Oh, that last one passed 4-0. And thank you, staff, for all your answers to all my questions. I was emailing you in the middle of the night all weekend long. Yes, is there a motion to ratify? Motion by Joe. Second by Juliana. Please vote. It passes 4-0. On to item E. It's recommended that the board adopt a resolution on number 6/23/1436 DM and approve, pass, and adopt the revised board policy. Any questions or motion to approve? This a motion by Joe, and this is the early primary program for the TJ. Second by Juliana. Please vote. Passes 4-0. Item F, the CSEA classification and compensation study, phase 2. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Motion by Joe. Second by Anthony. Please vote. This is exciting stuff. Passes 4-0. On to item G, to approve the new job description, school counselor, college and career readiness. Is there a motion? Motion by Joe. Is there a second? Second, Juliana. And please vote. Passes 4-0. On to item H. CVEA MOU, the revised salary schedule, and speech language pathologists and school nurses. Is there a motion? Motion by Juliana.
Second.
Second by Anthony. Discussion? Great work. Let's vote, please. This is 4-0. On to item I, to approve the provisional intern permits. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion by Joe.
Second.
Second by Juliana. Please vote. Right, let's moving on to item J. To approve the non-public school and agencies 2023-24. Is there a motion? Motion by Joe. Second by Juliana. Please vote. Any discussion? Sorry, I keep forgetting guys. I figure you'll interrupt me if you did want to talk about it. Oh. That passes 4-0. On to item K. I believe we have a presentation regarding the World of Work Summit update. Dr. Mishiro?
Do they do that first? Maybe the speakers.
Well, that's how I started my career as a kindergarten teacher, but spent the majority of time to provide context, chasing test scores. And the first 8 years of my career, I was labeled a turnaround principal. I would go into a school that was underperforming and raise test scores in language arts, math, and science. And we did so well that the California State Department of Ed sent proctors into our classroom because they thought we were cheating. Our kids tested so well. We became Title I achieving schools. And as our test scores improved, we noticed some things. Disengagement in our students. And by the time we reached 800 API, this quote I'm actually ashamed of today. I said, we won. The Orange County Register was following our school because we were about to be taken over by the state. We improved test scores so high that we exited program improvement. And later that day, one of the teachers, Sharon Ramirez, came crying in her classroom and said, we haven't done a damn thing for these kids. And what she was describing was that one of her students who tested advanced on the exams came back with a baby at 14 years old. She'd gone to Texas to have her, and she was proud. And what we observed is our kids in this high poverty, high EL population, although they were achieving on their test scores, were still dropping out of high school, getting pregnant in high school, and going into the generational gangs in the Richmond community. And we started to think, what are we doing in the names of federal accountability? And how are we actually going to change outcomes? So we started to think critically about what we were doing, and it was based on school design in 1892.
Bits of time to 40 or 50 minute blocks that will ring bells and people start to shuffle around the building and do something else. That's an organizational device, it's not an educational principle.
10 university heads, 1890 said, in 11th grade, everyone should learn chemistry. In senior year, everyone should learn physics. A lot of these subjects are great, but these priorities were dictated 124 years ago.
You think about, that's the high school experience today, and it was designed 120 years ago around an agrarian school calendar based on a standardized curriculum to meet the needs of industrialization. And so that's why, as we chase these accountability test scores, we're not changing life outcomes because we're no longer living and working in the industrial era. So when I came to El Cajon, some of the data that was shared to me by the San Diego Workforce Partnership and local EDC was opportunity. And East County, in particular, lead in the category of opportunity of kids not working and not in school between the ages of 16 and 24. That's a really bad statistic that doesn't show up in state and federal reports. And it's a national priority, not just here, but globally. This is seen in any state around the country, millions of young adults without school, without work. And so even here, I think I can have a couple people in our business community that would say that we have lots of open jobs, but unskilled kids because we don't prioritize or teach those things in school, which is one of the contracts we just approved with Workforce Planning. So how do we change this narrative of the zip code destiny? How do we take a community where kids are in poverty and help them out? There's data around that that shows we need to do things not more, but different. So what are kids saying?
When I grow up, I want to fly all day.
I want to climb my way up to middle management. Being replaced on a wheel. I want to have a brown nose.
I want to be a yes man.
Yes, woman. Yes, sir. Coming, sir.
Anything for a raise, sir.
When I grow up,
I want to be underappreciated.
Being paid less for doing the same job.
I want to be forced into early retirement.
So those are not Cajon Valley kids, obviously, but systemic problems. So you think about the 1.8 trillion outstanding student loan debt that's a controversy right now. These are the successful kids. These are the kids that graduated, filled out a FAFSA, got student loans, and now are holding the bag on student loans they can't pay back because they're in careers that don't fulfill those salaries. And so back to El Cajon, in our conversations with our city manager, our local Economic Development Council, regional chamber, we started to think differently about how we can break the cycle of poverty and restore a balance between the world of work here and our own system. Gallup has identified these areas that if we can increase student engagement, hope for their future, career and financial empowerment, and entrepreneurial aspirations, we can actually change the trajectory. And so we developed computer science, social emotional learning, presentation literacy, and finally the world of work as solutions to do that. TED-Ed helped. We started a process with them back in 2014. And I see one of our parents, Ben, whose daughter is going to speak right now in her first TED Talk when she first arrived here.
Waiting is the most difficult thing in the world because you can't do anything for your future and you only waste time in waiting without knowing what will happen to you and your family. My Tommy and I moved from Iraq to Jordan on January 12, 2011. We spent almost 5 years in Jordan waiting for our resettlement to the United States.
6 years later, this same young lady, after the World of Work and Presentation Literacy curriculum, talks about her experience.
Having a TED Talk at the age of 11 as a newcomer to the United States was and still is one of my biggest accomplishments so far. Today, I'm attending the new high school established by our district, where we have the opportunity to explore our abilities. In addition, we choose our career path through the World of Work program that we started taking in middle school and elementary school. This program is focused on giving a chance to students to explore the careers that they like, by giving them a chance to have an internship 2 times a week, where they can explore their interests and gain experience.
We don't need to market, but Nosha, we can take her on tour and she can sell the World of Work for us. The World of Work was born as an idea at the top floor of a Qualcomm skyscraper. Ed Hidalgo was our chief innovation officer for a while to help with that. We took this idea that every child has unique strengths, interests, and values, and we doubled that down with BizTown, an experience that our kids experience in 5th grade, where they get to try on a career and pursue a career through job application and interviews. We turned that into our own customized solution called the World of Work, integrated into classrooms.
Much of the Riot's inventory, the themes that best fit me, are realistic and enterprising. Today, I lead with realistic, because I like doing things hands-on, like switching out parts on the skateboard, working with animals, tools, or machines. Most people with the realistic theme like working on site, in parks, athletic fields, farms, or even in the military. Some of the greatest skills realistic doers have are building, using tools and equipment, really anything that involves hands-on doing. I appreciate things that I can see, touch, and use, and I like being physical and active. Realistic doers can use their unique interests to build a better world.
So our students can articulate their RIASEC really starting in kindergarten. And we got so much demand that we thought, can we get a license and patent on our curriculum and trademark, and we did with BBK. And now, partnership with Beable are able to digitize and scale not just the distribution of the physical curriculum, but digital solutions to help kids have these conversations.
I like the RISEC because I love the world of work and everything that goes to cover all my jobs and my personality. And
more. This is Cajon talking with the U.S. Department of Education.
What is that? It helps kids and even adults, like know what they want to be in the future. For adults, some adults, they make wrong choices in life, they study something they're not interested in, and that can lead to them like not being interested in your job. And when you're not really interested in your job, it's like this. You're not interested in it, you're going to feel bad at it. And you might even get fired.
Might even get fired. Okay, well, and that leads us to today. Just last week, Chan Zuckerberg Initiative announced Cajon Valley as a $1.1 million award recipient for the World of Work Modern curriculum towards our initiatives. This is a tweet they put out as they announced the award winners. There were 6. Anaheim City School District, who is a close collaborator, was also an award winner who we're collaborating with. Most recently, we advanced to the next round of innovation funding with the Walton Family Foundation. It's another $1.1 million grant towards the similar goals of scaling World of Work and improving on its practices, developing an ecosystem that we can measure happy kids, healthy relationships on a path to gainful employment. And the last conference I was attending was the Spencer Foundation in Chicago. We were the only K-12 district invited among stakeholders to apply for a $3.5 million school transformation research grant. Again, looking at the measurement, and can you start to measure kids' vocational identity, hope for their future, and then their action steps in post-secondary learning towards gainful employment. That is the whole concept of the learner employment record. How do you quantify that? And we have the best solution and tools at the time to be the K-12 partner. And here's a recap of the World of Work Summit. As you look at the travel expenditure, I think that if we were to send just Janet and Chris, they're the ones that are working closest to the other collaborators on this, that'd be fine. Karen and I going is a nice to have because people recognize me and my reputation helps with partnerships, but in terms of the work, this is really a working meeting. And here's a recap, which will show some of the U.S. Chamber Foundation, Chan Zuckerberg, Serpy and Walton, and Spencer Foundation people at our conference.
The World of Work Summit is a conference that is bringing together educational leaders from around the nation, some of the top thinkers to help us create an alignment with where we're taking the future of education. Educators have had the opportunities to visit classrooms, to see the world of work in practice, of what it looks like inside the classroom, and then we have been able to network and have discussion around that and how other educators can implement that into their own schools outside of that.
I know that the kids you serve, the families you serve, the people in this room you serve alongside. I know that they're lucky to see every single child that shows up back to your schools on Monday with somebody else's entire
I think school leaders oftentimes are reacting to things in their own local district, and they feel very responsible and feel like they don't have an opportunity to lead the district. But this conference is a great example of the power of learning from others, coming all the way to San Diego to learn, like, this is the school system that is doing career exploration in the elementary level better than anyone. And I really hope that our school leaders see that this work can't be done alone. That we have to work together if we're going to do it to the very best.
It was apparent yesterday when we were visiting classrooms that the teachers had buy-in. They felt like they were a part of the curriculum and the decisions that were being made, that their voice had been listened to. It was apparent that the principals and school administrators, they were very proud of what was happening in their classrooms and their schools. And the importance of that when the kids are graduating from school in this district, they're actually graduating with some ideas about what they're going to do next. It's not the end of the road just because they received their diploma. It's a, hey, I have an idea and I'm going to move forward with my next steps.
As an educator, it is phenomenal to watch children feel empowered in who they are and who they could possibly become in a profession has been really amazing to be able to not only see, but you can feel it. And so when I come back to my district and I have this idea, this sense, I have to wonder, how can I take what I've seen and every child that walks through my classroom be able to be filled with that sense of confidence and empowerment of I am.
But everybody in this room who is exploring the question of how to empower and enable our kids in new and different ways, connect them with the opportunities and the idea of opportunity in our society, you are my hero as well.
As a leader, I think the question that weighs on my heart is what's going to be different a year from now because I was here this week. I think the benefit of us being here as a team is that I've got a group of people that are going back to Indiana, and we're going to be together having that shared experience where we're able to think about how do we do the things we're already doing better, and what might be some things that we might need to start doing that we learned about while we were here this week.
Being here at the conference and being able to speak with other educators around the nation, it shows how positive impact that the World of Work has had, not just within Cajon Valley, but outside. Coming to the conference gives me like a renewed sense of excitement to go back to the classroom, to continue to build connections with my students, and to help them move forward in their education and on their path to their career, whatever that may be. Being able to meet other educators that have a like mind and who are also excited about it, it just gives me a positive feeling for where we're going.
But thank you. Thank you for your school, and thank you for taking all these young people and teaching them how to think about their own habits, how to feel their lives. You're all utilizing what you're doing.
So with this item, we recommend the board approve the agreement with the foundation to use vehicle revenue or
Where did we reach that?
There's public comment.
Quarter 2, 3, and then the first 2 quarters, I think.
Yeah, so recommendation to approve, but more importantly, thank you for making the investment to bring not just the 1.1 million from Chan Zuckerberg, the 1.2 from Walton, but the potential for the 3.5 from Spencer and beyond. The meetings that we go to, like the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation, people see what we're doing and they want to give us money to see it grow legs and to have a digital record that we can actually start to follow our young people into the workforce to know that every kid is happy and healthy on a path to gainful employment.
Thank you, David. All right, I have 3 speaker cards for this item. I have Chrissy McCullough. Sir. There will be a timer.
Hello, I was able to go to the World of Work conference, and I did enjoy my experience, especially going to the classrooms and seeing just how other classrooms utilize the World of Work. However, I do not like the way the funds are being spent currently for this endeavor. The first thing is the vehicle funds being, the royalties being filtered now to the foundation with no public oversight, I don't think is a great choice. I think that there needs to be more transparency. When I, as a parent, look at the budget that was given, or I'm not sure if you call it a budget, but the repayment plan that was given, I'm looking at that and it's like not itemized enough to really know what is going on there. I think that when all the money, whether it's the royalties or the registration fees, went to the conference, I want to know how that is supporting the mission statement to financially and or otherwise benefits the students directly this year. I understand that some of the funds were used for like professional development. I saw on the video that, you know, some teachers really enjoyed that, but I think giving them time to collaborate just with other people using the World of Work with the curriculum that they developed in our schools would be more cost effective. And I'd rather see the money that wasn't raised at this conference or used toward this conference go to the teachers who are utilizing work in the classroom. I'd much rather see, instead of doing more risky ventures, take the risk on our kids, take the risk on our teachers, that they know what they're doing, they help develop this curriculum, give them the tools they need. I know as PTO president, I gave money to our schools so they could have headphones to be able to use Beeble. And it's like, but we're able to give that money to a conference. I don't think that that aligns with what we really need. And then I saw just in part of that clip with that Zucker thing and talking about all these research things. I don't want any research on our kids. I don't want anybody having data on our kids whatsoever to outside organizations. So grants or no grants, I'd rather not see that, especially if it just goes to more conferences. Just don't research our kids, and you know, just keep the funds here at school and not push them out elsewhere. Other than that, I think if anybody wants to tour the classrooms at Cajon Valley, there's some amazing teachers doing amazing things, and I'm sure they would love that money for their classrooms.
Chris? Next is Priscilla Schreiber.
Good evening, board members and superintendent. My name is Priscilla Schreiber, and while I live in Lakeside, I own a business in El Cajon. That would make me a taxpayer and with a vested interest. Contrary to Mr. Miller's assessment of why I'm here, to monitor the board, my role is that of a citizen oversight. The last time I addressed this board, I told you them all about process. In the past 6 months, I have witnessed this board's complete and total disregard for process, protocols, and policies. In regard to this item before you, will you ask the tough questions? Will you ask the questions at all, ask any questions at all, or simply adopt the superintendent's recommendation? With all due respect, I find the accounting on the the WOW Summit to be vague, probably on purpose, and incomplete. Still waiting to hear how much revenue the district has received since the inception of WOW and how much it has cost the district. Does this board know? Does this board even care? The revenue expense summary should give an itemized accounting of how monies were received and dispersed. For example, how many tickets were actually sold at the $750 early registration amount, and how many tickets were sold at the later registration cost. How many staff were comped, i.e. 100 of the total registration fees? How many tickets were sold outside of the district? Were scholarships and sponsorships used to cover comped registration fees? How many and how much? And shouldn't that already be in consideration of the registration fees? How much of the registration fees, so the registration fees barely cover the cost of the hotel, food, parking, rooms, and AV at $391,000. What does AV stand for? As there is another line item on the audio visual MC in the amount of $132,000. This begs the question why a comprehensive budget prior to going with the summit was not produced for the board's consideration. Where is the budget versus actual cost? Where are the consultants' costs that were paid for their participation in WOW over the last year? Is this a snapshot of how the district runs its programs? And this board should have some serious concerns. This report is ruled with non-disclosures of actual cost against the summit. Mr. Miller told me he wouldn't hold it against me for what I don't know. The reason the public does not know is because the district is not transparent. Now that is directly at the board speaks. A comprehensive report would give you a picture of the summit's success or failure for future planning should you go forward with another conference. Allocating future Beable royalties were never discussed as part of the repayment plan and a part of the terms, and that is questionable at best. Asterisks and footnotes to your R&E summary is not a proper amendment to your existing repayment plan. Therefore, I urge this board to table this item and vote no. And also, if this was as comprehensive a report as what you just gave in your video, that would be appreciated by the public. Thank you.
David Burton.
Good afternoon. I'm David Burton. I represent East County Citizens Oversight, and I'm happy to be here before the board, the staff, and the most important people, the citizens, the parents of this district. You guys are here to represent the best interests of the student. I'm an alumni of this district, and I've seen a lot of changes. I think that World of Work has potential, but I have so many questions about where World of Work is, what we're getting out of it, and what it represents. When you go on the websites, you can't find squat about what's really going on. It's not transparent. I'd like to know how the board of World of Work was created. Who picked the members? How'd they get there? Why is there not a citizen on that board looking at the oversight of that board and how they operate and watching how the funds are spent? It's taxpayers' money. The boards don't create revenue, they spend revenue. So we need to have more oversight on that board. I look at the members. I'm certain that the legal counsel has probably said that Joe, if Joe is on the board, that she has a conflict of interest and she can't be arguing or voting on anything to do with WOW. So now we're down to 4 board members, if I count right. So I think there's a lot of things that need to be answered here. And in the short time, I have more questions than answers. How much taxpayer is really invested in this? And if they're getting all these grants, why do they come to the district and ask for it? And why is there a default on this repayment plan? And why isn't there plans to vote on extending the repayment plan? We need some hard answers, and I hope that you guys are prepared to ask them, and I hope that you table this and don't try to jam something through, because it won't be jammed through, it won't be finished until the answers are given. I'm here as one of the guys that is watching over and wants to help you guys get the right answers. But if you just try to jam it through, you're not going to be successful, because there's a lot of people out here that want the same answers that I do. Well, I think I got enough said right there. I could go on for another 10 minutes, but I know I don't have that. So, thank you very much.
All right, so now I'm calling for the vote, and then we'll...
I would like first motion to table the agreement. Staff recommendation is that we approve the repayment of the outstanding balance in early 2024 with vehicle royalty payments received. So there's 2 things going on there that don't have documents attached. One would be an alteration of the repayment agreement originally approved by this board. There is no amendment to the repayment agreement attached. Another thing that's happening, and I handed you guys a packet, which page 3 of that packet begins with the World of Work, or Cajon Valley Union School District and Able Education Inc. royalty agreement. I think it's important to preface too, with World of Work, there is career technical education within Cajon Valley, fully installed. And then there's this 2.9% royalty agreement where when we have a conference and attempt to sell subscriptions to the World of Work for $30 a year, this district gets 87 cents, 2.9% of $30. This royalty agreement is between Cajon Valley Union School District and Able Education Incorporated. So in order to assign our royalties as a district to a separate legal entity, the World of Work Foundation, there ought to be an agreement dealing with that. And I believe there is a term in here, a non-assignment term. Neither party may assign the obligations under this agreement without the other party's prior written approval. So again, we should have, if the agenda item says World of Work Summit update, but the recommended action says to basically hand over royalties that are owned by the district, the taxpayers' money, to a separate legal entity, the WOW Foundation, upon which one of our board members does sit, and Joe, please don't take this as me singling you out, but it is a concern I've been voicing, any of us sitting on, as voting members on the WOW Foundation and this board, especially when it comes to fundamental alterations of royalty agreements and repayment agreements. Sitting on one and on the other raises some conflict of interest concerns. And again, that would be any of us, not to single out Joe on that. It also raises, and on page, that page here, there's concerns with, there it is, California Government Code 54952. The question is a private entity subject to the Brown Act? And one of the tests is whether that private entity, being the WOW Foundation, this is page 12, both receives funds from and shares a board member with a local governmental agency. If that is the case, then the meetings of the WOW Foundation up to since one of our board members was appointed up to now, it appears are subject to the open meetings laws with the same requirements we have to post our agendas and invite the public. That does not appear to have occurred up to this point. So for all of those reasons, I motion that we table this until we can seek advice from legal counsel on how exactly we would, if it's this board's wish to assign our future and past royalties, because this is making a claim to royalties from Q3 and 4 of 2022. We started voting on approving funds for this conference in 2023, and on those action items of this board, it said the district will be repaid with revenue from the conference. It wasn't mentioned that we would retroactively reach back into 2022's royalties, which again belong to the taxpayers at this point, and apply those as a source of repayment. So there's a lot going on here, fundamental changes to royalty agreement, repayment agreement. I think we should table this until we have a chance for legal counsel to weigh in and advise this board the best way to do that, if that is our wish. That's my motion.
Thank you, Anthony. Any other discussion?
I just want to respond to that. So, and I appreciate that, Anthony, just in the information that you were able to provide for us, because I want to encourage that the information that you provide does provoke thought, and that's important for us in our accountability to our community and to make sure that we as a board can be rightfully accountable for the actions that we take. So a couple of things in regards to the World of Work. I've been a part of the creation of the World of Work since its inception, and I don't know if Karen or Jim, yeah, you were also. So the history goes back to basically when we knew as a district it was going to be very difficult for a lot of us to land on the same page, based on the fact there was just so many different different groups, different interest groups, lots of different nationalities that were coming in, lots of different language, and it's very difficult to navigate how to invest in our children and make learning important and personal to them. So the RIASAC codes were developed to incorporate learning so that it would be meaningful to them. We can basically RIASAC anything. We can RIASAC books, we can RIASAC math, we can RIASAC Word, everything that we do, we can put a code to that particular lesson that they're doing. We found that valuable. And the reason why we found that valuable is because these kids who were coming out from all these other places were able to land on the same page as to making this learning meaningful to them. Okay, so that's some background, some foundation. So that was important. Not only were we able to land on the same page with our students, but we started to understand the investment was also valuable to our staff. Our staff, our classified, and our teachers were able to say, wait a second, I can write a SAC too. I can understand that I'm realistic or investigative or social or I'm enterprising. So staff was able to really kind of buy into this or have value for this, because now we're not only integrating our students on the same page, but our staff also can continue to encourage that learning based on that. So I wanted to just give you the nuts and bolts, okay? That's just basic nuts and bolts. When we further wanted to progress with this idea, being the innovative district that we are, we took it as an opportunity to enterprise this for ourselves, to bring in revenue outside of the taxpayer dollar. So yes, the taxpayers are invested, but we wanted to create another revenue stream that didn't have anything to do with tax money. We wanted to be able to bring finance in, so it's coming in based on the sale of the curriculum to other districts here in the United States and beyond, and also grant money that comes in also. So when we have this visibility of who we are, Cajon Valley, and when we're able to demonstrate the work that we have with our students and our children, then it sparks in other districts and they say, yeah, I think this is good. We want to be able to make work relative to the education that we're giving them. We're giving them a why. We're giving them a reason why education is important. Because I know David said in the past, you know, when you ask a kindergartner, what do you want to be? And they just basically say, I want to be a doctor or a fireman or a teacher. Now we're kind of opening the scope of, well, you know what? Maybe you don't want to be a teacher. Maybe you want to work in education, and here's some opportunity of what you can do in the district office. There's not just teaching in education, there's more opportunity. So that's what we were trying to do, expand the opportunity. I'm not saying that World of Work is a perfect process. And accountability is important. And understanding where the money goes is important. When I look at the World of Work conflicts of interest policy, I know that was given to me. It needs to be given to the public, right? So we can all understand what's my role as a committee member on the World of Work. If being on the board of the World of Work, you know, the committee, if it's in violation of the Brown Act, the simple solution to that would be then I'm not on the committee, right?
It's not a violation of the Brown Act if you're being on the committee. When you're on the committee and the foundation receives funds from the district, it appears to require that the foundation
of the conflict of interest.
The open meetings clause.
Okay,
yeah.
so I appreciate that. Okay, so that can be resolved, right? I step off the committee. I've only been to one meeting. So I want you to know, I don't have an interest other than what I just shared with you, to continue on the work, to continue to progress in how we execute the work that we do. Do we need more information as far as how we itemize things, the itemization of what you want, how we spend the money, where it goes? You know, I would encourage any of you to become committee members to the World of Work Foundation. If I step down, so be it, I step down. But who here would be willing to step in?
I would.
Okay.
I'll look it over.
So I think that it would probably create a more robust understanding with our community to understand exactly what World of Work, not only we inspire to do for other districts, but what we want to inspire our community to buy into, right? We need that buy-in from you. We need you to understand what we do so you can help us encourage our students.
I have nothing but time. I'll sit there.
So I really appreciate both of you for what you brought to the table. I think, Dr. Miyashiro, I really appreciate your visionary and just being able to look at kids and giving them an opportunity where maybe they didn't have one before, to think outside the box. I just really appreciate that. I think there is something to be said about the innovative journey we've been on. And again, I appreciate, Joe, it's not perfect, and these are opportunities where we can fix these things together. I think communication and being open and not accusatory, but let's find solutions. I think there's a lot of solutions out here. I think most people in this room love the idea of the world of work. It's some of the details that we need to iron out. And so with that, there is a motion on the table to table. So is there any other?
Well, if we table it, we would have to decide what the purpose of the tabling would be, right? So are we tabling it because we need further information, exactly some of the comments that Priscilla and Dave made? They want answers, and duly noted, and rightfully so, their answers should be addressed. So how would we move forward with that? Would a meeting with the community members, David and Scott, be efficient? Would David and Scott be able to address those questions now? Or
is legal counsel?
Do we table it with all the information coming back to us at a later date? So
We need to have another workshop. What are the
those
options?
questions that I would say would be on the opportunity, what direction we would want to go. David or Scott?
If you'd like to make comments, I'm happy to.
I just want to clarify some comments that were made. There was no district funds given to the foundation. There was district funds paid to pay vendors, but nothing was given to the foundation. In addition to that, the royalties are not being assigned to the foundation. That was not the statement. The royalties are still part of the district. Per the contract, within 120 days, there has to be a plan to pay off any deficit. The plan presented to the board was to use the royalties. So the foundation has paid back every fund it had that was raised to the tune, we're short around $72,000. The question was to use the royalties the district already has to pay a portion of that, and then future royalties to pay the balance. So the district, of all this $600,000, $72,000, all the district is technically funded of the foundation. The foundation raised the money through scholarships, registrations, sponsorships. That was all the foundation, it was not the district. So I just want to clarify that none of that is actually true. And
none of what is true?
The assignments to the foundation, that's not, we're not asking the district to give money to the foundation.
No,
all we're asking for is,
when you say we, you're speaking as the WOW Foundation, or are you speaking as the cabinet member of the district?
Good question.
the foundation.
Okay, so it is proposed here, the district will be collecting 2023 quarter 1 through quarter 4 royalties at the beginning of 2024 that can be used to support this unpaid balance. So the borrower is telling the lender here that if they're laying claim to the lender's past income, quarter 3 and quarter 4 of 2022, and quarter 1 of 2023, and future income for the borrower to repay the lender. The borrower is laying claim to the lender's, the taxpayer's royalty.
It's all the same fiscal year for both the foundation and the district.
It's not the
Whether
same
it's
money.
passed or not, it's still the same fiscal year from this standpoint. So
I'm saying the royalty agreement is between Cajon Valley Union School District and Be Able Education Incorporated. The World of Work Foundation is not a party to that agreement. And so, back to my point, if the board would like to take an action, which is what we're being asked to do here, to assign those royalties where the district is the recipient and has an agreement in place, as repayment for money borrowed by a separate legal entity, the World of Work Foundation, then we would, I believe, need a written agreement, and also we would need to let Beable know that we will be assigning, since there is a non-assignment clause in our agreement with them, that we will be assigning those royalties as repayment to an entity that borrowed from the district.
So what I'm sorry.
And here's the other thing, and I think the Internal Revenue Code might offer some guidance here. When it says an entity receives something, right? So if this district paid, I think the summary says the district paid $227,117, of which the foundation will have reimbursed $129,993. Has that check been written from the foundation to the district at this point?
Yeah, it's actually 149,000.
Okay, so 149,000 has been paid back of 227,000. And then also, how many, and I know you answered this, but this is for the board, it's about the district paid about $148,000 for 170 people to attend this at the full price. We didn't get the cousin rate of $750, the early rate. We paid $850 times 170 for our people to attend. Is that factored in on registration fees?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the labor, you know, we had consultants like Ed Hidalgo. I know this cabinet was doing monumental work to put on this conference. Has that labor been accounted for anywhere in this expense summary? So labor of Cajon, paid by Cajon Valley Union School District for Cajon Valley staff or consultants to put on this conference, is that accounted for as a receipt? So that was the point I'm making. So there's in-kind donations, right? You can do labor, you can pay bills on behalf of an organization, and you better tell them, well, Sam, if you received that value, whether somebody else paid it on your behalf. So whether Cajon Valley Union School District funds were deposited into the WOW Foundation account, or they were used to pay the Hilton or to pay our employees, there was value received, right? So that's what I mean when I say received. And I don't know that, you know, the California government code that says if you receive funds and you have a board member, does that just mean money deposited into your account, or would it mean something more like the IRS means when, you know, something is paid on your behalf? You better claim that on your taxes, right? As a gift or an in-kind donation, as a nonprofit, I would imagine.
So give me a second, because I want us to go back here, because this item is the World of Work Summit update, and to accept the WOW Foundation Summit update and approve the repayment of the outstanding balance for in early 24 and once 2023 vehicle royalty payments are received. Yes. And so what I've heard is that there is the not agreeing to using vehicle royalties. So then that takes us back to then adopting the budget or the outstanding balances, or having some agreement that we need to bring back to the board. And is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, a repayment agreement, an actual one, because there isn't one here. So the action is to approve a repayment, and then to approve the royalties of the district be used as part of that repayment. So there would be the repayment agreement, and then there'd be the assignment of royalties from Cajon Valley Union School District to the WOW Foundation. Because if the borrower is laying claim to the lender's income to repay a loan, again,
I think this is your language that you're used to do, the borrower and the lender.
Yeah.
It's like a Ponzi scheme.
You know, the district loaned the money, and then we have a repayment.
I'm with you.
Okay.
But what I'm trying to come back to is going, okay, so there is some disagreement about using the vehicle royalties in order to pay back the district from the foundation. And so we're needing to find where the foundation is going to find the money in order to pay back the district, and when that is going to happen. Is that correct?
I think the disagreement is in taking an action to approve a repayment agreement, absent repayment agreement, and then to approve an assignment of royalties absent a modification of an agreement between Cajon Valley Union School District and Beable.
Well, and I think the
Valley Union School
Beable,
District and the Wow Foundation.
I think the Beable is believed to be the repayment. That is that correct?
No.
Okay. So,
That belongs to the district.
Right.
The Wow Foundation is a separate legal entity, so we would need to have an agreement to.
Agreed. I think, I mean, you made your point. I'm with you on that. And so I'm trying to articulate it so that where we can get to a solution here. And so find that space, right? So we need to find a place to be able to have the foundation do the repayment and what that looks like. It is, what I'm hearing is that there is a disagreement for using Beable funds because of the entities being outside of and not having the approval from them.
I wouldn't say it's necessarily a disagreement, it's just, it's the absence of any agreement. So
Okay,
we
but
would
let's
need
find
there to be an agreement
what are
to
the
take
solutions? How are we gonna get to
Use
it?
grant
What
money.
what is it we're wanting to find?
Okay, so we need an agreement
not the
to assign
district's.
royalties.
So we need to go back to be able to have them assign the royalties to
In the board.
the Cajon Valley's foundation.
Board would need to vote on that, and then we had our repayment agreement that we all agreed on. Now we're looking at a modification of a repayment agreement, but there's no attached repayment agreement. There's a proposal here to use the lender's royalty income to satisfy the debt, but there's no agreement.
Which I think that was believed to be an agreement, but I'm glad that you're seeing things in a different light than I did. So I appreciate that. And so how do we get to that place? Let's find that, let's make a motion. You wanted to table, but how do we then find solutions to move forward?
So table it, seek legal counsel's advice on an amendment to our repayment agreement, because the foundation is.
So extending the repayment as well.
And then if the foundation's proposal is to lay claim to past and future royalty income of the district to satisfy the debt, then propose that agreement so this board can take the action that is being asked of us tonight.
I think that sounds very reasonable. Can we get a comment from you, Scott, in regards to that?
At the wishes of the board.
Okay. So there is a motion on the table to table this item. That is.
I'm abstaining for a second and abstaining also.
Abstaining from, I'm sorry.
A vote on the report.
Okay. That makes sense. Second the table. Okay. So now we have to vote. Motion was by Anthony, second by Juliana, and one abstention that we know of right now. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So we'll table this and get more information. Thank you. On to item L. I'm not looking to do the record of staying here any longer, so let's kind of muster through. Let's go. Item L, we have adopt the resolution for outdoor playcraft equipment. Is there a motion? Motion by Joe. Second by Juliana. Please vote. And I just want to say this out loud. I want to remind ourselves to go back to the travel and conference. So, is everybody voted? And that's in 4-0. All in favor. And so on to item M, the outdoor play world equipment. So, please, is there a motion? Motion by Juliana,
Second.
second by Anthony, please vote. All in favor? 4-0. All right, so let's go back to the travel and conference.
Personally, I think I like David's idea of sending just.
Jana and Chris.
Yeah, I think, the exposure for Chris to really be challenged to continue that branding and to take the face of that work would be, I would be pleased with that.
I appreciate that suggestion as well, Dr. Mishra. No, I appreciated your input, so.
So, I think this goes back to an important distinction we need to make with the world of work. We have the world of work fully installed in our schools, benefiting our students. I'm excited about the work that Dr. Miyashiro has planned at Bostonia Global. So that's what's within our district. Now, when we have these travel and conference items come up and it says business partnerships, that's the world of work where we send some of our top talent the world over to sell to other districts this program for which we're a royalty recipient at 2.9%. I have said this before to David, I believe we're the best 2.9% minority partner there ever was with the amount of enormous amount of effort and key people that we send all over the country to promote these business partnerships at 2.9%. That part, so separating it from the benefit to Cajon Valley for this world of work, part of selling world of work outside of the district, I believe should be the responsibility of the royalty payer who has 97.1% of the endeavor. So when I see business partnerships and it's a large sum of money, I go, okay, how many subscriptions to World of Work do we need to sell at 2.9% to justify these ongoing travel costs as the year goes by? So I'm inclined to vote no to this trip. And it goes back to separating in my mind World of Work here in Cajon Valley and how it benefits our students and teachers versus sending our key people across other state lines to try and sell it at 2.9%. It just never really pencils to me.
I'm not sure I heard that it was just to sell it. I think it was also to get information on digitizing job.
Yeah, I thought it was clear. There's no interest in selling World of Work at this conference. This is a developers conference on the learner employment record.
So when it says business partnerships, maybe that's what I'm getting hung up on.
Rationale is business partnership.
So we have a partnership with Beable.
To bring it, well, this isn't Beable. This is T3 Innovations and the Chamber.
We've been members of the T3 organization for the last 3 years and have been attending mostly online meetings due to COVID. They did just recently come back to in-person meetings.
So,
and the partnerships are with current partner Digital Promise. Chan Zuckerberg will be there. These are all the players that are working on solutions to create visibility over, are the K-12 systems actually delivering on their promise of gainful employment for the young people in various sectors of work.
And also including risk.
So we should be there. It will be poorly received if Karen and I are not. My suggestion was just to make it more amenable for the board, given public comment, but we should be going there.
Poorly received by whom?
By board.
No, it would be poorly received if you're not there.
Yeah.
By whom?
By those that
just
by
gave
those
us
that invited
$1
us to
million.
come. Yeah.
Sam.
These are things that we've been working on for the last several years, and now just with the new grants coming forward, we're gaining legs and resources to start spending money on the
But the
development
grants
of
go to the
digital
foundation, not to Cajon Valley.
But again, Jana Leonard and Chris Collins are the ones that are doing the actual work.
Should pay for it, because it goes to the
The
foundation.
work means, when we say rationale business partnerships, we're not talking about business partnerships with Theobald.
No, and perhaps we should have worded it differently. Business partnerships there are with Digital Promise, US Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Walmart, the other funders that are looking at a comprehensive learner employment program.
So the goal there would be to get more grant funding, it sounds like.
No, we're working, it's a working meeting. We are the K-12 developer that are helping to build in the comprehensive K-12, our K through workforce learner employment record.
For Cajon Valley or for other districts?
For us, but that would scale to others.
Scale to others.
Nationally.
That's for the foundation.
Okay.
Can you talk to us about what community members brought up about the 17.2 amount versus the 4 individuals attending? Do they travel with lodging, food,
Alternative.
or, right? I mean, is there an opportunity where this number could be less than 17.2?
Had we planned earlier, probably, it was last minute planned travel just a couple weeks ago, or actually not even a week ago. And the world is traveling again this summer, so it's just, that's time's up. But again, should the board want to send only 2, it should be Jenna and Chris. Karen, are you okay with that?
Karen is okay.
Are you okay?
There'll be disappointment, but if there are 2 to go, it should be them.
Okay. Thank
It's
you
a
for
working
that.
meeting.
Thank you for that. Now, with that on the table, let's put a motion to accept the amendment to sending 2.
Motion?
Motion by Joe.
Motion.
Oh.
Wait, I just want to say, I'm not sure if I can say that right now, but how about if Anthony, you want to know more about it? If you can go, if you have time to be with them, if you want to go know more about it, let us know what's going on, what's there, what we're benefiting from. I think it's the time for us, me and you, to know, to go more. I just registered for 3, and I feel it's very important to go. After I registered for TEDx Women, they asked me like 6, 7 questions, asking me why I want to go, what I'm gonna do, what's like, I'm thinking what I want to learn from like those 3 days I'm gonna attend, and like many questions, and I'm planning to respond to that email before I attend this one in October. So I feel like we should maybe think about it. If you think this is something you want to do, just go with the team and know more about it. I feel like this is important to know more about it, especially as a new board member.
I appreciate that, Juliana. And I will politely decline because I know it's last minute and I know this trip is costing a lot per person already. So on this one, I like your idea. Don't get me wrong, but on this one, and what value would a trustee deliver versus Mr. Collins, Chris Collins, right? Yes, and the folks who are, gonna be working within our district with our students versus, I could probably come back and give you guys a great report about it, but, beyond that, where the rubber meets the road with the students, I would be a little bit separated from that. So, but I appreciate the suggestion.
So with that, there is a motion by Joe on the table to accept the 2 to attend this conference. Is there a second? Second by Juliana, and so we'll have a verbal vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Passes 4-0. Thank you. I scroll way back down into communications. Is there a need for a moment of silence? No? I'm like, which end do I have to pick? So no need for a moment of silence. B, retirements.
I'm so happy there are none to report this evening, only a revised retirement date.
Oh, revised, okay. All right, public participation. Cards. So, let's see. I have Christy McCullough.
First again. Okay.
And then next will be Barry Willis. know there's a Barry Chance out here, so I didn't know. Thanks, Barry Willis, and Chris Park. So we'll start there with those three. And when the timer is up.
Last meeting, I was incredibly disappointed as a parent that will have a sixth grader going to sixth grade camp next year, hopefully, maybe not. I'm encouraging the board and Dr. Moshiro to find other options outside of the YMCA to give kids a choice to go, even if that means 2 different camps for one school. I know that when I spoke to a couple of the trustees over the last week and at the board meeting, it was implied to trust the teachers who are picking the camps and that they'll be there to support our kids. Although I trust a lot of the teachers, it was hard to see many of them here in red not here to advocate for the children who spoke out against the atrocities that happened to them at YMCA camp. But they were here shoulder to shoulder advocating for LGBTQ rights or equality, and they were people in the red that were yelling and not being gracious to our communities of faith. And it wasn't just Christians here, there were several other communities of faith, and it was not respectful. So I don't have a lot of trust that if things were happening at the YMCA camp that somebody would step in, because it seems like they drew a pretty hard line last week. I'd encourage the board to please consider all communities and not just the ones that have had a luxury of having a good time at camp before, that to help those in need and help the communities, my community, feel safe and going. That includes giving counselor names. I don't know why that's so hard to let us know who will be entrusted in the care of our children. It should not be difficult. If I ask for any staff member, there should be a directory, and it should be no different at camp. Why cover for people? It does not make sense. Your guys' job is not to bend the knee to a union or to outside organizations. It is definitely to support our students, in which a lot of cases I do believe you have the heart to do. But with that vote, you left a lot of communities and children out of the picture. And I don't think that our students should be dismissed, the 9 students, based on where they live or based on the fact that they're in Anthony's jurisdiction, which is what I've heard, again, talking to a couple of you, that it was, well, it was 9 kids in Anthony's district. So, like, they should be treated with the same dignity and without discrimination. Camp should be safe for all, and that should be the option. Thank you.
And the timer comes on.
Yeah. Good afternoon, board members. Good evening, I should say. I'm on the Alpine Fire. Is this thing working?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I'm on the Alpine Fire Board, and I'm on San Diego LAFCO. I know nobody knows what LAFCO is. Just see me afterwards. So anyway, I wanted to talk about a recent poll that came out just briefly. I'm an East County resident. Rasmussen reports 82% of California likely voters disagree with this statement. A person loses their parental rights when a child enters public school. Let that sink in. That's only California likely voters. So my question to you, board members, is how passionate are you about listening to the voters? How passionate are you about listening to the parents? The parents in this scenario are the customers. They are the ones that you are here. You're the reason. They're the reason why you are here, period. So I bring up this because we are having so much nationwide going on with. We know what happened with Virginia. Virginia had a tumultuous change, got rid of a lot of board members, a brand new governor came into power. So my question is, the curriculum needs to have an opt-in for this transgender ideology stuff, okay? It needs to be an opt-in. It needs to be an opt-in for things like critical race theory. I just wonder, does the Muslim community like their children being taught to about critical race theory, or do they like them being taught to about gender ideology? Does the Christian community like it? Does any part of the community like it? I would submit to you that the majority of parents want to be informed. They want to know if this is going on, whether it's a school counselor. And by the way, a parent or a school board member should have the right to visit campus without saying something like, oh, he has hate speech. I'm just wondering, Mr. Mearshare, what's your idea of definition of hate speech is? Something that disagrees with you? And so I want to challenge you to reconsider your curriculum and to consider the opt-in for these issues. Just like there was a revolution in Virginia, there can be a revolution in California can come also. The parents are speaking out about these issues, and they're not going to stop. It's only going to get more tough. They're going to get even stronger.
I'm sorry. Chris Park?
Thank you for allowing me to speak to you tonight. I came here with a totally different agenda, but I do want to make one comment about last meeting. I was not here because it was my 42nd wedding anniversary and I didn't want to disappoint my husband. However, I was disappointed with the way the crowd treated the little girl. I watched the entire meeting, but I was also, Ms. Alagrita, completely disappointed with your comment about just don't send your kids to camp. I don't think it's right that we just pull our kids out of camp and out of what should be a wonderful experience just because this board doesn't want to make the YMCA stand up to their obligations to the parents. That's really not why, but I just wanted to say that. I think if you have them pulling kids out of camp, what you're going to find is people pulling out of the district. You're going to wind up without enough property tax money to run this district because that's how the public feels. But I'm here specifically to address Senate Bill 1016. Senate Bill 1016 became law in January of this year, and that is regarding fetal alcohol spectrum disorder being added as another health impairment for needing special ed. I am a grandmother raising a grandson with this disability, which is very, very, very time-consuming, very difficult. Kudos to Rios Elementary School because they took my incredibly struggling grandson and turned him into an increasingly successful student, and I'm very appreciative of them. But this comes with a very disappointing report that I have to bring to your attention. I have found not one teacher in this district who has been trained in how to work with these children. Not one special ed teacher has any training in fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, which is also neurological motor disorder due to prenatal alcohol exposure. I plan to deliver to the board and to the superintendent some statistics later because I'm going to spit them out really quick right now and you're going to heads them spin. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder is being diagnosed 2.5 times more common than autism. It is very prevalent. It is coming as a tidal wave to this district and you aren't prepared for it. During COVID, when everybody was locked down and churches were closed, bars were open, people were drinking and procreating. You have a tidal wave of children with this disorder coming towards you and you are not prepared. And that is very disappointing to me as a parent, but it should be more disappointing to you as board members to know that you already have 1 in 20 of the kids in these Southern California districts have fetal alcohol spectrum disorder that has been misdiagnosed as autism or ADHD. I want the board to address this. I want the superintendent to address this and get your teachers educated. 2 meetings ago, you had something about having exceptional teachers. You can't have exceptional teachers if they're not educated in how to work with these kids.
And just a side note, I do want to direct anybody that has spoken to reach out to our staff and make appointments to have those conversations. So, thank you. Juan Flores will be next, then followed by Debbie Jocelyn, and then David Burton.
Juan is gone.
Juan is gone. Okay. All right, next is Debbie Jocelyn.
Yeah, my name is Debbie Jocelyn and I live in Anthony's district, Crest. I want to thank Anthony for doing the things that the reasons why we voted him on to be on the board. He's living up to what we voted for. I was at the meeting, at the last meeting, when all of the teachers and counselors in their shirts attacked us verbally and with signs that accused us of hating people because we have some moral values that run deep in our souls, such as what one man mentioned, chastity and purity. And having our kids, I have grandkids that live also in Anthony's district. My granddaughter is going into 6th grade. She does not attend the Cajon Valley School because of the environment that we are afraid to have her be in. So we are supporting our daughter in her decision to not have her kids attend Cajon Valley School. Because even one day of trauma, which these kids experienced at YMCA camps, could devastate them for a lifetime. And 9 kids being ignored. Where is the saying, believe the victim? Where did that go? And I was disappointed in the vote. There are other choices for camps for kids. And they can experience this wonderful experience, I guess, that can happen in 6th grade. But they can do that at private camps in our county. And that's where my granddaughter will be. She'll be at a private camp having a wonderful experience with adults who have our same values and are vetted and fingerprinted and know they are safe. She'll be safe. I back up everything else that the 3 previous people before me have said. Special education, I worked in special education. I worked for the Cajon Valley School District as a SECA, and there's always been a shortage of positions to take on the amount of needs that are in special ed. I worked with severely handicapped kids at Montgomery for 3 years and Emerald Junior High in severely handicapped. And they all need one-on-one, you know? They all have so many special needs. So I hope the next year maybe we'll see a video about all the new special education programs that Cajon Valley is doing for those kids. That's my wish. So thank you, Board, for what you do. It's a difficult job. Just remember who you represent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, David Burton again. Thank you again for being here. Thank you for being up there and going through the process. This is how the sausage is made. Everybody knows that when you get elected, you have to make the hard decisions, and we're here to help you. We don't want to be adversarial. We want to help you. I love every one of you, and you've got tough jobs to do. And when we point stuff out, take it to heart. Take it. It means that we care. We like having you here, and I've got a suggestion. I've got a GoPro, and I want to put it on David Marashiro so he can go to that conference and record it for us and bring it back to us so we can see just exactly what you guys are seeing there. Share with the public. We want to know how valuable it is and be able to make our own decisions on what's going on. World of Work is a great concept It's nothing new. I told you, I'm a product of this district, and we had career day way back in the ancient days when I was in school, and I think that you should incorporate all of the talent and the talented, intelligent people that are in this district and bring them in and let them talk to the kids and get hands-on instead of videos and PowerPoints and stuff like that. Get some real people in there to talk to them, because that's what's going to make an impression. You bring in a doctor, a lawyer, a contractor, a real estate agent, people that are going to make a difference. And these kids need to have exposure to the real world. We all know what's on the horizon, and that's AI. AI is going to come in, and it's going to make a lot of these college degrees obsolete. I can't tell you how incensed I am about how they're pushing everybody to go into college, and they come out with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt, and now we have a president trying to buy votes and get rid of the debt that these people signed for because they were misled. Let's get some real world experience in with our kids in this district so they can learn from the people that they live with. That's all I have to say.
Mohammed is our last speaker.
Good evening, board members. My name is Mohammed Tuama. I'm a parent of 2 kids here at the district, and I live here in Oklahoma. And for years I was coming to this board warning about a lot of things that are happening. Unfortunately, none of the board members, even the ones that my district, contact me to learn about what is my concern. Now the concerns are being bigger, and you see. All I was asking is just like more participation from the community to the board. And I believe there is an order from Dr. Mishiro, superintendent, not to communicate deeply in my community members. I want to ask a question about the Muslim community. Muslims, Christians, Yazidi, Jewish, we all have family values and we're all conservatives. So that's most of them. I don't want to say all of them, but most of them. Especially people in East County, we came here for a conservative community. But unfortunately, as we see conservative board, almost all the actions taken by the board are progressive. And it's coming from your employee, Dr. Mishiro. And the thing that you just defended, and when we say something about it, you don't look at it, you just attack us or think that we're attacking it. No, we're just directing your eyes to what we see. Because he can bring videos just like the Word of Work, which doesn't work. Those things can be done with GED, not even high school. So when we bring something to your attention, the books that outrageous at the council's offices, the billboard at Montgomery, when we bring that to your attention, you can just look at it instead of defending him. Please listen to us. So videos from David Mishra are really great, but these are statistics. Those are our grades going down since David came in. Look here, look at his salary. I spoke about that many times. Now we have charts, okay? And it's gonna be public, everyone is gonna see this. So, last meeting that happened, that David, I believe that he's the one who orchestrated, I'd like my community to come here so he can pass his contract agreement without any formal evaluation. We're not asking for a favor, we're asking you to abide by your rule, is to have a formal evaluation for the superintendent with a proper notice for the community to come and participate. If you can't control him, let the community come and say what we want for him to renew his contract. Second, for the agreement that he wants to have with the Zuckerberg Foundation, we don't want to allow our kids to be studied by those foundations. So that's all I want to say. I don't want to say, we love you, but please listen to us. Thank you.
We're moving on to CVEA. Steve.
off, good evening, Board of Trustees and Cabinet. I would like to, before I go into this, what I want to talk, I would like to share my speech from the last board meeting. And I want you to take the time to read it. And I want you to understand when you read it, what the purpose of the teachers from Cajon Valley Education Association, why they were here. And I will share it with you because there's a lot of confusion and misinformation. And I've talked to a couple of you, but if you read my speech and take your time and read it, you will understand everything that is being said was not the purpose. So please, when I send it to you, take the time and read it, educate yourself on it to understand what the main purpose was. Because I'm blown away with everything that happened as well. I don't think either side was polite. I found it heartbreaking, but I will say this. You do not understand what the purpose of us being there. And if you really heard the words that came out of that speech, you would know. So I'm going to share it with you, and please look at it. That's all I ask. Okay. Today I want to shed a light on the dedicated teachers of Cajon Valley Education Association. These unsung heroes are part of a noble profession which requires bachelor's degrees and a California teaching credential. Many of these teachers also hold supplemental authorizations, speech education certificates, and master's degrees. They have chosen a path that will not make them wealthy, by no means, but one that rewards them by making a difference in the lives of their students. Nothing is more rewarding for a teacher than having a former student stop by and say, "Thank you for being there. Thank you for always listening to me. And thank you for everything you taught me." It makes all the long hours and challenges worthwhile, more than you guys can imagine. Our teachers embark on this journey driven by a passion for education and a genuine desire to help others succeed. They spend countless hours planning lessons that meet state requirements, grading assignments, and guiding students on their educational journeys. Their efforts extend far beyond the classroom as they serve as mentors, counselors, and advocates for their students. Our teachers understand that education is a key out of poverty to unlock the potential and creating future opportunities. They strive to instill love for learning, to inspire curiosity, and to nurture the unique talents of each student. They will work tirelessly to create inclusive environments to embrace diversity and promote equity. Please recognize and appreciate the selflessness and sacrifice that the teachers of Cajon Valley Education Association demonstrate every day. Their choice to dedicate themselves to the advancements of society through education is commendable. So let us acknowledge their invaluable contributions and support them in shaping a brighter future for the students attending Cajon Valley Union School District. Thank you.
With that, CSEA.
I have no report tonight.
Or CVAA.
Sarah's not working.
A report. So, discussion of future agenda items. No?
Well, there was a motion to table, so do I need to add that as a future agenda item, the second part? Okay.
All right, board reports. Anthony.
I'm always first. All right.
They're just so excited to hear from you.
Oh, you were first last time. All right, so first of all, I got to attend the LCC promotion, which was extra special because my own son was graduating 8th grade, and being a trustee, they invite you up there to do what I joke that politicians are, one of the few things we're good for is shake hands and congratulate the graduating 8th graders. So that gave me the opportunity to embarrass my son and give him a big hug and kiss on the cheek in front of all his classmates. So that was that was fun. I got to see the staff deal with the, before the graduation even occurred, some kids, they think those kids were suspect, came and just destroyed the whole setup first thing in the morning. Our PTA president, April Adler, got there and was just distraught from seeing that. And I know our parents and staff got that back together. There was a little snafu with the speeches. I watched staff go and solve that and get one of the valedictorians the speech that she was meant to give instead of the other. She was giving the speech of another person, so they got that sorted out and hid the seams and did a great job. Daryl Priest, I think he does this at many of the middle schools, handed $3,000 to graduating high school student that he had promised from LCC. The program he runs is he basically pledges, this year it was $3,000. Once the kid graduates high school, they can come back and collect. He'd forgotten what he told the senior who was graduating, so it's like, I forgot, so here's $3,000. I'm pretty sure it was like $1,500 4 years ago, but adjusting for inflation, that works out. And on the topic of Daryl Priest and what he was trying to get done at Bostonia, I hope we can continue that conversation and find a piece of dirt that's out of the way of the master plan, 60,000 square feet, and put up some stem walls. Basically, all he needs is about 3,000 to 6,000 square feet of dirt and some power, and he can put on the home building programs for the kids there. So build full-blown stick-built homes that can be taken off-site by a house mover and auctioned off for, I think the estimate was over $250,000 to $300,000 a piece. So I think that would be a great program. I talked with the staff at Bostonia about it a while back, and they were all totally for it and said our kids definitely have the talent and ability to do that. So I don't know if it's too late, but would love to see that get started hopefully in the next school year. And whatever I can do to make phone calls and rally the community. Heck, I'll go cut the trees down that are the pepper trees that are in the way so we can pull the houses off the site. Whatever needs to be done, I'm all for that. I think it's a great program, and I know Superintendent Miyashiro was that was years in the making before I arrived on the scene. So I think it's a great idea. Whatever I can do to help. Some things that I have to go back to when I decided to run for school board. I heard from this dais that there was a group, the Institute for Applied Research and Youth Development, that was going to measure the happiness levels of every child in Cajon Valley. And to me, that sounded like a dystopian nightmare, to be honest. And then I went and read the vision statement of the Institute for Applied Research and Youth Development, and it only got worse. They were obviously extremely partisan, in my view, racist in their approaches. Thankfully, this board, not me, wasn't on the board then. I brought up issues of informed consent, having an independent review board, and when you are turning students into subjects of longitudinal studies, the requirements of that, and the requirements to keep their data and maintain their privacy. And this board prior to me, after having approved that $3 million proposal, it was canceled. So I want to thank you guys for that. What I heard tonight, Superintendent Miyashiro, and I know that we have a philosophical disagreement on this. I heard measure kids over a period of time, measure, for their happiness and healthy relationships. I can see the good intentions there, so I don't want that to get lost here. However, that's not evidence-based. Kids aren't being dropped off at school by their parents to be data mined. Maybe that's not a charitable way to put it, but to measure the children is not within our authority, in my view, not within this board's authority, not within the district's authority. If we want to measure the efficacy of our programs, and our unions would agree, then it would be the staff reporting back on those things. So the Chan Zuckerberg Institute grant was, and this was on the Cajon Valley website, the front of the Cajon Valley website, page 13 of this handout, if anyone wants to follow along. Dr. Miyashiro is quoted there saying, through this grant, we'll partner with experts like Child Trends. So I went to go see who Child Trends is, and Child Trends studies children. And they do studies. One study they have is on page 17. Discriminatory transgender health bills have critical consequences for youth. So then you go read the study, and they make an argument. It's a familiar argument. You see it being forwarded by hrc.org, for example, that the actions of duly elected state legislators, governors, passing laws that say, you have to reach the age of majority, 18, before you engage in life-altering surgeries or off-label pharmaceuticals. They equate that, and it's an argument. I'm obviously on the other side of it, but their argument is that that's harmful, that these legislators are doing things that equate to attacks on the bodies of children by denying them, again, pharmaceutical or medical intervention. I don't want to belabor the point, but there is this tons of quote-unquote studies, and the thing about when you look at groups like this and you say, okay, they're engaged in studies. Are they doing double-blind placebo studies? Are they doing meta-analysis, which is the study of other studies? Or in this case, they're just doing surveys. And then you go and look at their survey respondents, and you find out it's not even children. It's not children from that community. It's anyone who was willing to answer the survey, and they had their foregone conclusion that, hey, we don't like what these legislators are doing, so we're going to start with our foregone conclusion that it harms children when they do these things, and then we're going to call a bunch of people and ask them if they agree. And if they do, then there's our study. So that's Child Trends. Whether it's for accepting a grant from the Chan Zuckerberg Institute with a string attached that we offer kids up as subjects of a study, a longitudinal study or a data mining operation to, I'm assuming, prove the, what?
Those questions.
What, or what questions?
Or the questions about the study.
Oh, so, no, they weren't questions, they're statements. But I think that the hard line I want to draw, and you guys have probably known this since I was a parent speaking from that podium, is again, school is a place for children to come and learn. It is not a place, no matter how high-minded our ideals are, and whether we think that by studying them over a period of time we could maybe make them happier or in healthier relationships. It's not a place to pioneer those things on children. If we want to measure the efficacy of our World of Work program, it should be from a staff standpoint with the informed consent of our staff members as well. That's any human subject of a longitudinal study, survey process that we would want to track over time. There's independent review boards to protect privacy, to also protect against the tendency of the people who would, like to see their study work. You get that third party in there who's really looking at it and making sure, if you beat the data up enough, it'll tell you anything you want. I spent enough time on Excel, dreaming about different investments to tell you that much. and looking at, how a budget was prior to engaging in a building project, for example, versus how it actually wound up. So, point is, student privacy ought to be protected, and I want to say this publicly because I talked with President Miller about it already, so now that we're in public, I want to send to everyone here. I know that me and President Miller, and I know some of the other board members are sort of working along similar lines on, and I've mentioned it in past board meetings, a resolution parent rights, student privacy, and going back to what the Supreme Court of the United States, the Constitution of this state, the Constitution of the United States have established as far as the parent's ultimate right to direct the education, healthcare, and other aspects of the children's lives. We heard from some folks tonight who are concerned about the infiltration of outside groups posting propaganda with website links, education counselors displaying books about gender identity, for example, elementary school education counselors. I don't think those concerns of our community will go away, and I think, shoe on the other foot, if the counselor had on display a book about conversion therapy or Christianity or being a Muslim that was targeted at elementary schoolers, I understand they can have their Bible, their Quran, or whatever book, that they're reading on their desk, whatever display, pictures, that's up to them. But when it's student-facing, it's promoting an ideology, whether religious or otherwise, or sexual, the concerns of this community aren't going to go away on that. And we have policies in place that would seem to prevent that. Advertising and promotion policies, policies regarding how books are adopted. We have catalogs where parents can search the books that are there, and there's even a process by which they can challenge a book that they find being used to teach their child. Parents have the right to come into any of our schools and say, I want to see the videos, assemblies, teacher training materials, curricula, books, worksheets, handouts, supplemental materials that you're using to teach my child in this district must be responsive to that. So we have an adoption process, we have a book catalog process, and we have an advertising policy that says, I used this example before, but you cannot put Safe Place, foothillschurch.org up in the library. Even though, whether Foothills believes they're a safe place or not, or whether we believe they're a safe place or not, or any organization for that matter believes they're a safe place or not, you're talking about a student-facing advertisement. We have an advertising policy that says the superintendent is responsible. Principals can be responsible in certain cases, but ultimately the superintendent is responsible for what gets posted online or in our libraries. I know parents have been asking, sending me pictures, why is this still up? I went in the library and I saw this. I went in my kid's counseling office and I saw this. These things remain up. The board, I think, has given what I would consider clear direction that they ought to come down, and I know there's been past situations where postings promoting a certain religious have been removed quickly. However, these things remain up, and I don't know why. I don't know why we would remain in violation of our own policies, especially with regard to what is student-facing in our district. I talked with President Miller about this at length yesterday. I know there's the thinking that we have to tread lightly, but if we're in violation and the students are being exposed to something, it seems like a pretty simple, we just follow our policies. Another concerning thing is the World at Work Foundation laying claim to all grants past and present for, the past 5 or 7 years. When we went to our workshop, basically every grant this district has received was credited to the fact that we have a robust career technical education program, which hats off, we do. There are a lot of districts that do. The Chan Zuckerberg Institute has donated to over 400 of them. I don't know, there's 90,000 public schools, so maybe there's 9,000 districts. Chan Zuckerberg donated 471 of 9,000 or so, this would be my guess. So to lay claim to all past grants and all future grants and say that that's income for the World of Work, rather than crediting some of it to the fact that we have a school district with 15,000 students with a career technical education program that these organizations are willing to support and are supporting nationwide, I think is taking too much credit where it's not due. There is credit where there's credit due in various areas, but I don't think it's a proper accounting technique, to be honest. So, let's see, what else? So I'm gonna hit send on this, my rough draft of the parent rights and student privacy ideas for a resolution. And to the entire board here, because this is the only time I can do that. If I wanna send an email to the entire board, not in front of you guys, then it would be a Brown Act violation. So I'm gonna do that so the rest of the board can have that. We're going dark for a month, so we can come back in August and maybe have something that's the result of all of our collective effort. You know, I don't mean to, I get to monopolize the time right now because it's my board report. But, you know, I appreciate working with all of you, and though we may have vehement disagreements, I also appreciate the tremendous amount of talent and dedication to the left and right of me. So with that, I will conclude my board report. Thank you.
Joe.
I just want to thank everyone for coming today, and I want you all to know that I had a lot of meetings in regards to our last board meeting. I mean, from the top down. I spoke to a lot of people, and the people that I spoke to, I want to inform you, gave me a lot of good advice, sound advice, in order for me to better my leadership here on board. And I want to thank those people who did that. I want to thank people who are calling me out to accountability, not just to the things on the agenda, but for the things that I've said. So, Chris, thank you. I want to explain a couple of the things. I want to explain what was said and how it was said and why. So, in regards to the YMCA camp, let's just take that for an example. We did that investigation when it came to those students, and we found much of the claims that were true. The things that were said and the things that were done at the camp during their 6th grade campsite were founded. Not all, but most. So when we confronted them after the investigation, what we asked was, can you not do that anymore? No use of pronouns, no asking of pronouns, everything that we had expected that they do. They did give us a guarantee that they would not do that. And beyond that, they were even changing policy of, I think, kind of giving the counselors a more generic name, maybe using coach or counselor, but nothing in the scope of using pronouns, okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I've been to camps. I've been to camps of faith, and I've been to camps that weren't of faith. And unfortunately, what I can share with you is that not all camps of faith are what we think they are. There's no guarantee. I have a guarantee from Camp Marston. If they break that guarantee, then we have recall on that. But I don't have a guarantee with a lot of other camps out there. I just don't. In fact, I can tell you right now, I attended my own church's camp for middle school at least 2 years ago. And there were a lot of unsavory activity that was going on where our church had to decide that we weren't going back to that camp. So I think it would be really remiss of us to consider that because it's a Christian camp or a non-Christian camp that these activities may or may not happen. That wouldn't be wise of us. Things happen at every campsite. So we have the guarantee. So that was my first point, is we have the guarantee that this particular YMCA camp would not use those pronouns. okay? So the second part of that was, yes, we should give a more broad opportunity for our schools to choose which camps they want to go to. So if you want to, if we add in Indian Hills or Hume Lake or something else up in the Cuyamacas, Forest Home, the schools individually still have the opportunity to choose which camp they want to go to. So although we give them choice, cost, things of that nature would play into effect, and they would still have the opportunity to maybe continue to pick Camp Marston, YMCA camps. So on that, a lot of people heard that I said, the teachers know our children better than the parents. I think I've heard that narrative, but in context, the teachers know our students better than the counselors when they go to camp. So when we send our 6th graders to camp, some of our 6th grade teachers go with them to camp. So there's counselors, and then our teachers go as a secondary or primary chaperone. So when I'm talking about the teachers know their students more, the teachers know their students better, I'm talking about when they're in the context of at camp, okay? So I wanted to clarify that. So did I have anything else to share about that? I do appreciate the fact that I hope people would recognize that Cajon Valley is actually probably a destination for talent and teachers and other people to come to based on demographics and what we stand for in this district. People know who Cajon Valley is. They know what we stand for. They understand this board. And they understand that there are certain things that aren't going to get past us. And I appreciate the things that Anthony brings to the table. When we talk about moving forward in developing our sex ed curriculum and we move forward into our safety curriculum, what we're doing is we're bringing all that to the table. I talked about this last time. We're talking about, I don't, you know, as a formal curriculum, we don't necessarily teach transgenders, and we don't push that as a formal curriculum. That's not what we do here. If we could have, but we reneged that on the revision. So kudos to Anthony. So on that, we're going to have the opportunity to sit down as a community and help to really create a more robust curriculum for sex ed, for health, for safety, so that all of us can buy into what we're teaching our students. That's the goal. So with that goal in mind, the hope is that we would continue to not have to put out the fires right now, right? There's a lot of fires that we have to, little fires burning in libraries or whatnot. By everyone coming on the same page, and Anthony, you're right, we have the clause of no advertisement, it should be none. But is there a revision? Do we have to get clarity on that board bylaw?
No. As it existed.
So with that, there should be no advertisement of other religions or thought, okay? That's clear. We've given direction to the board, to the district for that. So what are the consequences? Do we have anything in regards to that? Do we have consequence for that? I don't know. So here's what I'm looking forward to. That our board meetings, I have to congratulate Karen actually for leading a pretty calm board meeting tonight. So thank you, Karen, for doing that. And I want to continue to welcome people to help me to become a better leader. And the last thing I wanted to share with you is, I know Dave Burton, he's not here anymore, but it's probably my responsibility to press into community a little bit more. For community to help understand what we're doing and the direction that we're going in. You know, in the past I was a federated woman. Would it harm anything if I would actually attend those meetings and share out what we're doing? There's Tea Party, there's other organizations within the community that if I were to just basically go and share with the community the directions of our board, our district, perhaps the information going out would kind of go before these types of contentious board meetings, things of unrest, things of not being on the same page, but hopefully create a more building relationship type community. So that's all I have to say.
Juliana?
Yeah, and I feel it's important today is to share something and also just to focus on that part, making sure they're not putting anything in the class or in the school. And you say this is Dr. Mayshiro should watch that or be responsible for that. I believe it will be good for the schools and for us to invite the principal, like each board meeting here, and we can let them know, they can hear what the parents are thinking, what the parents wants to, like with their kids, what we want to do. Like, I feel like having one of them here to know what we need help with, and this will be good also to help David not to do everything by himself, everything David, so maybe the principal can help to let the teachers to see what's going on, the concerns here every day, like from parents, and every time we meet there's a new things they want to change. Maybe having one of them here, I feel is very important. If we can do that, I'm not sure. Or if they can't make it, maybe someone from the school can come, just hear us, hear the parents, and maybe help David, because I believe we have like the biggest district here, 27 in school. It's a lot for David to do all the work by himself. So this will be something good. And also, I just want to let you guys know, like everyone here, every decision we make here, we always carefully, for me, like especially, I carefully thought out and discussed each decision we make here. We take into account the opinion of the community, parents, cabinet, and the superintendents. When we vote, we do so based on what we believe is in the best interest for our student and community as a whole. I strongly believe that healthy district is essential for a healthy children. Thank you.
Thank you, Juliana. Thank you all for your board reports, and I am going to kind of read through a little bit of my board report, but I appreciate each person. I have had many conversations in the last couple of weeks, and I appreciate the support and feedback. Like Joe, these are all growing opportunities. It's been pretty amazing to see the passion and the involvement. Where I've been on the board for 6 years, there's been maybe a handful of board meetings that have been at this capacity even. So, and that's mostly staff. So having the participation, and we also do have principals and teachers and people involved online. So there are definitely more people here that we don't see. So I would love to have that number every meeting to know what we're looking at. See if we're at capacity. But
19 people watching today so far. There was 25 earlier.
So that's a little less than we've had previously, but that is definitely good. But I really appreciate Dr. Miyashiro's vision. I think it really aligns with what our community's been asking for. We are East County, we are a lot of job opportunities and businesses, locally owned businesses here. We own our own business as well. And so, and to see the trades and the, across the board, I really appreciate Barry being here. I think what I'm even trying to say is just the innovative way to give our students opportunities for their future. I remember a conversation I had with Dr. Miyashiro regarding just the foster care system and the repetitiveness of these transgenerational patterns, and that is a therapy term, but that happen because if a kid has been in foster care, usually their kids will be in foster care and then their kids. So he was like, how do we stop this? And just that really very pensive and thought-provoking and really wanting to be a part of the solution to help getting our students out of this the pipeline to prison kind of mentality type thing. So there is a lot that I think is involved with our world of work, and we all have growth opportunities, right? But I just wanted to say I appreciate this team, the cabinet, just each one of our cabinet members do a lot of work and have teams underneath them that do a lot of work. So I was here on Friday and I got to do a walk around of the campus and got to walk in on several meetings where our staff is already engaged in next year's curriculum training and making sure that we are working to get our kids into a positive place in reading and writing and all of it, right? So really making education the best place for our students where they're gonna grow. The passion, I appreciate that, Steve, of our teachers is incredible. I am always inspired. I just wanna go back and just be in the classroom. I want that creativity. If you've been in the classroom with our teachers, it is just so much fun. I'm like, wow, I just wanna be around this all the time. And so I really appreciate each one of our staff, CSEA, the supports that you give. It's just incredible things that are happening, special ed. I think, let's see. I even appreciate when we disagree, you know, because I think there is a place for finding solutions and resolve. And I think we all want the same thing, really having our kids have the best future that they can have. I appreciate Jim's leadership. This is not an easy job up here to be presiding, so I appreciate your grace with me today. I appreciated even Jim's diplomacy last week. Was really appreciative of just how he handled things with decorum and grace and sensitivity. Because I really believe that our parents have passion and that is good because we get to see, again, we have not seen a lot of parent participation in years. So to have people showing up is wonderful. I wanna say, I just really appreciate Anthony. You're very detailed and passionate. I really appreciate your focus on those details. I hope you also help raise our standard. Joe, I appreciate your authenticity, your humility, just your passion, your music, creativity as well, going into our kids and creating your own parodies. I love it. She's funny too, and she's got a lot of grit. And you don't want to get in the wrestling match with her. Juliana, you are a quiet learner here. We've got to see you kind of come out of your shell a little bit today. You seek to understand, and I really appreciate that. You have such a huge heart for everyone, and especially your community, and I really value that. I think we all have so much to learn from each other, so thank you. And for that, I'm passing it over to Dr. Miyashiro.
Thank you. Thank you, Governing Board. As Scott eloquently mentioned, we serve at the pleasure of the board, and boy, do we serve well. I appreciate the cabinet, you guys are crushing it. And Mark and Steve, your units, and Sarah, if you're listening, thank you for showing up on this first week of summer to serve in Camp Cajon. I have just a couple pictures to share of highlights. One of our students won a Resiliency Award at World Refugee Day this past weekend, Elan. And here are some images of Camp Cajon, our teachers, staff, support staff, and management team showing up to give our kids a happy summer. And the last couple images are just images to remind us why we're here and who we serve. And this story just came out. Thank you for authorizing the Health Committee and also the Safety Committee. We launched today a parent invitation, community invitation, and Channel 8 News picked it up.
I didn't get
The district first launched a school safety plan back in 2018 following the deadly Parkland High School shooting in Florida. But with school shootings still a major threat across the country, the Cajon Valley School District is now taking it a step further.
Training is paramount. Training is what's going to help their success.
The Cajon Valley Union School District is making sure their safety and security procedures are up to date.
This is something that we revisit every year, practice training protocols, tools, everything.
The district, along with the El Cajon Police Department and San Diego County Sheriff's Office, are once again working together to beef up their prevention strategies and response for all 27 district area schools.
But to have that collaboration, to have that open line of communication with them is super important to accomplish that goal.
Superintendent Dr. David Miyashiro says the district is making the necessary adjustments after hearing safety concerns from students and parents on student behavior, discipline procedures, and the frequency of which incidents happen. Last month, the school board took steps to address these concerns, gather input, and update their safety plan. As part of the preparation, law enforcement agencies hold realistic training exercises like this.
Our school district concentrates on an outbreak response. We don't rely on just a lockdown only response if ever faced with a critical incident. It's really important that we get realistic training. We want to make sure that if staff is ever faced with the presence of danger, that they know what the response is going to be.
The efforts to increase security and safety comes as welcome news to parents.
They need to be able to know the blueprints of where they're at so they can handle the situations better. They know where the doors are.
The children are our future. We need to teach them, to help them. The district will be holding future town hall meetings to lay out how they're putting their plan to action. The public is invited to attend and voice their opinions. To find out how to participate and when the next meeting is, go to CVUSD.com and click on this story. For Seattle Bend, CBS 8.
And that's my report. Back in action.
Thank you so much, and happy summer, and I want to wish everybody a happy 4th and safe 4th of July. I feel like Bob Barker.
I think we should go ask.
Big New Year cats, I don't know. But have a wonderful, let freedom ring.